Cook is the first vice president for Third Laguna Hills Mutual, and he's here to tell us about an opening they have on the board. So what happened here, Jim? Thanks for joining us, first of all, but what's going on?
Ralph Engel is resigning from the board as of midnight tonight, and that leaves a vacancy that runs a term that ends in October 2025. That's about 18 months, 19 months of term left, so a little over half of what the 3-year term is. And just want to remind people they have to have been in third for a year in order to apply.
Right.
They need to be in good standing, no outside problems, debts, disciplinary problems for breaking the rules. And also want to remind those that may not have a year on, but that are interested in getting on the board, there will be an election in October of 2024.
Okay.
And there will be 3 positions up for re-election.
The folks can do a full term there.
Right, that'd be a full term for 3 years. Applications to fill the vacancy that's happening today start tomorrow.
Okay.
Applications will go from March 1st through March 15th. You get those applications from the corporate secretary. Just go down into the main foyer and ask for the corporate secretary for an application for the third mutual director's vacancy. And you'll fill out that paperwork, all of that. And then the interview is scheduled for a little over 2 weeks from now.
Now, it's not going to be an election, just so folks understand. They're not going to be a board-wide election for that, for all the folks in third,
No,
right?
it'll be an election after the interviews. The actual board will vote to put somebody in for the remainder of that term. Because, you know, elections cost us a lot of money, around $45,000. So we can appoint for positions that have been vacated.
Okay. Now, this happens every once in a while, right? I mean, for whatever reasons, folks need to step away. They are going to move, or there's health issues, or whatever it might be. We're not saying what Ralph's was, but, you know, there's just something that occurs. So you guys have a process here that you follow.
Right. And heaven forbid, we even have had people that expire during the term. And as far as the board candidate recommendations, they're encouraged to become familiar with what the responsibilities are of a board member. Because you don't want to go in there cold turkey and not really know what you're there for and what your responsibilities are. So there's certain duties. There's also a code of conduct. Code of ethics, a duty of loyalty, and confidentiality agreement. And in order for applicants to be aware of this, if they go to the LagunaWoodsVillage.com and go to residents, go to Third Laguna Hills Mutual, next to documents, and then to board training, there'll be a Board of Directors handbook. You can read through the whole handbook that kind of lays everything out of what your responsibilities are.
Right.
And then there's also an all boards training video that's put on by an attorney and it's been filmed, and so you can review that.
Okay.
So again, you want to know what you're getting into before you get into this.
And a lot of time folks serve on committees and they've been to meetings, so they kind of know the run of it. So if you're thinking about it and you haven't done any of those things, it'd be a good idea to at least watch some of the televised meetings or go to some of the meetings and see what the process is and what you're getting yourself in for. A lot of you guys serve on a lot of the committees too, right? Isn't that part of the requirement to be on the board?
Right, that's a big part of it. When I first started, I was on 8 committees. So you see the time commitment that happens.
Right.
And of those 8 committees, some of them aren't as difficult to do, some of them don't have as much work, but all of them have work. And then now I'm on 5 committees, but I also attend several other meetings as a officer of the board. So going to 5 committees, I have more work than I had when I was on 8 committees.
Right.
Because I'm also the chair of the ACSC, Architectural Controls and Standards Committee, which is a very, very working committee that does a lot of things. And if you go up to here where we have it on the screen, the Code of Conduct and Ethics.
Sure, board member duties.
Yeah, they have to sign this Code of Conduct. They have to make reasonable care when making decisions. You know, they have to understand that we take off our member hat and we put on our corporate hat, because our duty is to the corporation. You know, we don't disregard individual members, but our priority is to keep everything afloat.
Right.
You know, we can't benefit members or benefit any personal agenda or that to the detriment of the corporation.
Right, right.
Because ultimately that's our duty of loyalty. And I want to highlight what's in yellow here. Once a decision is made, the directors have the responsibility to speak with one voice. That means directors should not attempt to undermine the action of the board. If a director does not agree with the ultimate decision of the board, the director should say nothing about the decision. If a director cannot keep quiet, the director should resign from the board prior to speaking out against the board action. So in other words, the majority of the board makes the decision. There should be no I in the board decision. It's we.
Right.
And the majority of the board makes the decision, and that's final. Otherwise, business can't go on as normal, and we waste a lot of effort and a lot of time.
Yeah, and there's an undermining to what, you know, we're going forward with this, but folks are saying, well, I didn't vote for that, and they shouldn't have done this, and that can be a challenge in terms of governance and in terms of you guys going forward in unity as a board.
Yeah, it's detrimental to the community because it starts rumors and innuendos, and it just gets out of hand. So oftentimes, you know, the first year I was on the board, I was on the 7-4, and I was part of the 4, but I never spoke out against what happened, what went on, because your duty of loyalty is to the board decision.
Right, and that's the thing that other folks have to definitely understand as being a board member. It's not, you don't come in as a board member and now you're just going to throw down some edicts. It's all a matter, it's shared governance, it is a community, and there's input from committees, and you guys make decisions as a board, not as an individual, and this is where we're going to go forward because I said so.
Right, and we're very much at arm's length away from VMS, the Village Maintenance Service. You know, we don't hire and fire, we don't reprimand, we don't do any of that. You know, we are a policy-making board. We make the policy. The way we can control VMS is through the budget. Right. But we still have our hands tied with that because we can't lower the budget to where the members don't get the service. So exactly. It's kind of a catch-22 where you have to try and keep some control. And then we have the VMS board of directors, and they still are policymakers. They aren't the managers that manage the individual directors and that. You know, we have to, everything we do has to go through the CEO for us. If you think about it, we've got over 40 directors between United, Third, Towers, VMS, GRF. And so if all those people were trying to go to the department heads, the department heads would never have any time to get their work done. Right.
They know actually their jobs would be grinding to a halt.
So as a third director, your point of contact is the CEO. Your secondary point of contact is the chairman of a certain committee. And you can get permission to go to talk to the department heads that way. Sometimes the CEO, if it's something that's urgent, she'll just walk you down to that department head and he'll take care of business. With the committee chairperson, it's probably a specific issue to that committee. And again, permission from either the president of the board or the chairman of that committee or through the CEO, but never just go directly. Who can waive confidentiality? You know, once you come in, a lot of confidentiality things.
Sure.
Member-to-member conflicts, we can't tell one member what we're doing against that member and can't tell the other one what's going on. It kind of ties your hands a little bit there too, because sometimes if everybody just said what was going on, it could be resolved. And we have had cases where that's happened, where the member has waived their confidentiality, and then the situation was completely taken care of. But we as board members have a duty to not break confidentiality when you as a member are being punished or being cited for non-compliance. we can't broadcast that to everyone.
Right, and that's just a situation where some resident sees something, they report it to you guys, and they have the expectation of confidentiality, so there wouldn't be any. You could have some retribution going on in there and fights in the neighborhood. So that's an important part of what you guys do is that confidentiality.
And the reality of people having to obey the rules. Mark Laws put out an email. We had about 5,000 compliance issues in 2023. Of those 5,000, only 40 ended up before the hearing committee, which is where I leave and go to after this interview. So it's less than 1%. It's about 0.8% of the people that just won't follow the rules. The other 5,000, as soon as you say, hey, you broke a rule, they say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Right.
But that 0.8% consists of almost 67% of our legal fees.
My goodness.
To deal with people who don't want to obey the rules that they signed up for when they moved in this community. And in reality, if you don't want to obey the rules, you shouldn't move into an HOA community.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I've lived in HOA communities. I've lived in non-HOA communities, and the difference in the neighborhood and the practices that go on are vast and different. So people, are attracted to these communities because of the rules and the standards that are upheld.
Right. And so anyway, continuing on with the duty.
Sure.
The duty to protect and preserve confidential information received during service as a director even continues after you leave the board. So when I leave, I still can't disclose
still not released from those
any
things.
of our legal things, any of our confidentiality of members. None of that can be broken unless the confidentiality is waived by the person who is part of that. And so we sign that confidentiality, and if you break that confidentiality as a director, you're going out of the scope of your service. And you could be held personally liable. So again, I'm recruiting for somebody to apply for this position.
All this fun stuff.
But I want them to come in with their eyes open
Right.
and understand what the limitations are.
And attendance, like you said, is also a big deal, right? In terms of your attendance, not only at board meetings, but for committee meetings and all sorts of things that you just need to be part of. So it's an active role.
Right. And so even with that, a director can be removed if they miss 4 meetings within a 12-month period. And so it's no cause, no nothing, but if you aren't there for a third of the time, you don't even know what's going on.
Right. It's hard for you to come in and make decisions.
Right. And it's very easy to make the meetings and do the stuff because everything is virtual now, mostly. So if you're somewhere else, you can still attend virtually and still be a part of the meeting.
Right.
And that's a big advantage. So that was one good thing that came from COVID.
Yeah, so people do want to serve, but they have legitimate mobility issues sometimes, and it's harder for them to get around and those kinds of things. So I can see where the attendance policy it has that extreme flexibility now with the virtual reality of being able to do it from your home or whatever it might be.
And only out of consideration for everybody else, you have to have scheduled changes. If you know you're not going to be at a meeting, you need to get your alternate to come and serve at that meeting so that it isn't lost. If you're a member of the board and there's a meeting, if we don't have a quorum, business doesn't get done.
Right.
And all the time I've been on, we've never not had a quorum. We have to have 6.
Right.
And so 6 out of 11, generally you're going to be pretty good with that. But a lot of people, even when they're on vacation, they attend virtually by Zoom. So as long as you can get to a computer, you can still be a part of that meeting. A little bit different on the committee meetings because a lot of that stuff is handled right at the point of issue. When I'm chairing a committee, I never try and do it virtually. It's very difficult.
Yeah, that would be a challenge.
But it can be done. And again, you've got all your agenda. All the agendas have to be posted for the open meetings. Closed sessions, it still has to be posted. You're going to have a closed session. Closed session is limited to certain items, contracts, personnel matters.
Confidentiality stuff.
Things against members. It goes on. And there's a list of 4 main ones, but then it's expanded under Davis Sterling to about 11 special circumstances for closed sessions.
And so board members, when they come on, they need to understand those rules, and they actually sign a document, right, that says these are the rules.
There's 2 different documents that they sign: the acceptance and acknowledgement of what their duty or what their confidentiality is, and then the rules for board meetings, the resolution, which is your code of conduct, and you have to sign both of those. And you have to sign both of those annually to remind you that you've signed them. Don't forget that you have this duty to the board, to the corporation.
Right.
And you also have this duty of confidentiality. You know, you just can't go and blurt out things. And there have been problems where people have done that.
Yeah.
And then it causes problems for everyone. And it ends up extending the legal problems, the legal costs, which come out of all of our pockets.
Right. That's the last thing you want. So let's talk a little bit about, before we let you go, board candidate obligations. Attending the monthly meeting seems to be number 1.
But not just attending the monthly board meeting, attend it and be prepared.
Yes.
Know what's on the agenda. Read through what's there. The packets can sometimes be 1.5 inches thick. Sometimes they're only 1/4 inch thick. But either way, you have to keep up on what you're voting on. You do have to abstain if you have a conflict of interest. You do have to abstain if your friend is the one on it and you're very close friends and you feel that you might be biased. So you can abstain from voting on that. But again, you need to be aware of everything that's going on that agenda so that you can make an informed decision. Like I said, you serve on many third mutual boards and GRF committees. Third mutual and GRF committees. The committee assignments determine the number of hours you're going to put in. The committees I'm on and the boards and the hearing committees, I probably put in 40 to 60 hours a week.
It's a job.
Yep, 1 free lunch a month, and if I zoom in for that one board meeting, I miss the free lunch.
You missed the lunch. Come on. When I was a Little League umpire, I got a hot dog and a soda after the game.
Yeah.
Sounds like a better deal. And people yelled at me there too. So.
Yeah, but they didn't yell at you 24/7.
That's true. That's true.
You know, we have some of the staff, some of the directors get upset because they get an email on a Saturday or Sunday on the weekends. That's normal for all the directors.
Yeah, I get used to that idea.
So you serve on many of the committees. Again, I want to emphasize the board directors have no direct control over VMS employees. Our main liaison is the VMS CEO. And like I went over before, on occasion, if warranted, the CEO may accompany a board member to a VMS director. Some VMS directors work directly with committee chairpersons. I have a really good working relationship with my director, and so we converse back and forth on many, many things. On the ACSC, the main goal is to make it easier for alterations for the members, but in doing so, we also make the workload easier for the directors. So it's a win-win in my case. So it's a very compatible relationship between the director and myself to move forward with revising all the things that are 60 years old so that the standards can be brought up to date, up to current codes, up to everything. And we just eat at it a bite at a time, like eating an elephant. You can only eat it a bite at a time. And we try and do a couple of the standards every month to move through them, and then it's a process to move through them. So
it sounds like almost an overwhelming amount of work. Tell me why you do this. What is it? Give me as we wrap up. What makes you stay? This is a lot of work. You're supposed to be retired.
Well, my main motivation was when I went to do an alteration, and it was during COVID. It took me 4 years to get through the process.
Wow.
3 years of it was paperwork, and a lot of it was because things weren't separated, because rules for United and rules for Third are different.
Okay.
And so anytime you walk in that door, the first question from staff should be, are you in Third or United? Because different rules apply.
Okay.
Where my unit is located, I'm across the street from United, and 2/3 of the way up the block becomes United. So when I went in, I'd get answers For United, I'd do what they told me to do. I'd come back and they go, oh no, that's United. You have to do it this way. It's very frustrating. I think we've solved that problem.
Well, good. All right.
We've also solved the problem of getting variances that it used to take up to 8 weeks after the committee approved before it was approved by the board. Now it's 8 days. And so again, it's trying to streamline. We're trying to move a lot of the stuff from alterations from us to the city because it's the city's responsibility. So again, streamlining what's being done in alterations.
All right, well, Jim Cook from Third Mutual, thank you for updating us on this. And if you're interested, folks, get on there and make it happen.